As the Clone Wars dragged on, the supply of the crucial resource known as Bacta began to run dry for both the Republic and the Separatists. Because this Bacta was crucial to getting both the clone troopers and the non-droid Separatists back on the front lines of the battle, it was a hotly contested resource, often attracting raids and attacks to steal it. As a result, many brave troopers were forced to risk their lives to protect their supply of Bacta. So, let's find out how a few brave troopers saved their brothers and ensured that they would have access to the wonder liquid of Bacta. Before we get into it, make sure you're subscribed for more awesome Star Wars lore content. So, the story begins aboard the Republic Medical-Class Frigate called the Medica, where Captain Jarl of the Republic Navy has picked up Obi-Wan Kenobi and given him emergency transport. Obi-Wan was stuck on an asteroid for some strange reason, until Captain Jarl was able to save him. I'd love to hear the story about how exactly Obi-Wan got into that situation. Captain Jarl then tells Obi-Wan that serving as the captain of a medical vessel usually means that he doesn't see much action at all, but they do play a vital role in the war, caring for badly wounded soldiers on the front lines. In response to this, Obi-Wan notes that the Medica has certainly seen her fair share of action in the past few days, and Captain Jarl agrees, telling Kenobi that the ship lost their escort to Separatist fighters only a few days ago. Sergeant Bolt is the only clone trooper who managed to escape without suffering any injuries. Obi-Wan is shocked by this, and Captain Jarl adds that all he wants is to sneak back home without any trouble, so that he can return these brave soldiers back to Coruscant for further treatment. As the group move through the halls of the ship, they eventually come to a Bacta treatment room where dozens of injured clone troopers are submerged in Bacta tanks, slowly healing their wounds from the battlefield. Captain Jarl then turns to Obi-Wan and says to him, "Traveling with a bunch of wounded troopers can't be too exciting for a Jedi Knight like you," but Obi-Wan is very humble and tells the captain that to travel with such brave troopers is a very high honor. As Obi-Wan walks through the row of Bacta tanks, the troopers are in a lot of pain, still recovering, but manage to gather enough strength to salute General Kenobi, showing just how loyal they are to the Republic and fighting for their brothers. Obi-Wan salutes back at the troopers before moving back to the bridge, where the medical frigate is just about to jump to hyperspace, but they receive a distress signal from nearby. Captain Jarl is very concerned at this and orders his lieutenant to maneuver alongside and scan for weapons on the ship where the distress signal is coming from. The lieutenant performs the scan and reports that the ship is claiming to be called the Wayfarer and is supposedly a spice transport vessel whose engines have blown, with many wounded men on board. On board the Wayfarer is a pack of Zygerians, with the two lead pilots debating whether or not to fire on the medical frigate or wait until they are closer. Obviously, firing on a clearly marked medical ship is a definite war crime under the Galactic Accords and Yavin Code, but these guys are desperate to obtain the Bacta on board and don't want the Republic to find out that they deserted from their service. On board the ship, however, many Zygerian soldiers are in horrible pain and are in a very similar situation to the Republic's clone troopers, being badly in need of a Bacta supply to heal their wounded men. As the medical frigate approaches the Wayfarer, Captain Jarl asks if the clone lieutenant is detecting any weapons being charged, and he can't detect anything on his scanners. Strangely though, he is reading a huge magnetic charge which is flooding the hull of the Wayfarer, and the moment Obi-Wan hears the word magnetic, he orders Captain Jarl to raise the shields on the medical frigate immediately. And make sure you let me know down below what this clone lieutenant's name should be, since he doesn't get one in the story, and he also has a pretty awesome helmet design, so make sure to include that in the name. Moments after raising the shields, the Wayfarer makes a violent impact onto the hull of the ship and magnetically attaches itself to the outside. Obi-Wan very quickly ignites his lightsaber, knowing that the Zygerians are only moments away from boarding the ship, before calling over a young clone sergeant named Sergeant Bolt to join him. Obi-Wan then tells Bolt that it looks like the two of them are going to have to do the job of an entire company. The Zygerians then wield their flame torches and eventually melt open an entrance into the ship before rushing forward right into the path of Obi-Wan and Sergeant Bolt. The Zygerians try to take the Republic forces by surprise, but Obi-Wan simply shouts down the hallway, "I'm afraid the surprise is on you." Soon after, the Zygerians open fire on Obi-Wan and Sergeant Bolt, but Obi-Wan is able to send all of the blaster fire right back at them, before telling Bolt that these Zygerians need to be kept contained and cannot be allowed to reach the bridge for any reason whatsoever. As the two continue the fight, the Zygerians surprisingly flee from the battle and begin running down the halls, away from Obi-Wan and Bolt. Bolt is shocked, wondering where they are going, but Obi-Wan already knows what this really means. They're not traveling to the bridge, but instead going straight for the supply of Bacta. The group of Zygerians eventually reach the Bacta tank, and each of their boarding party have small tanks on their back, ready to siphon the Bacta off and bring it back to their men. Unfortunately, however, Obi-Wan quickly spots them and turns into General Grievous for a short few moments, while deflecting blaster bolts coming from every angle. As Obi-Wan pushes forward, Sergeant Bolt immediately comes out of the manhole behind him and opens fire on the Zygerians who are trying to steal the Bacta. But instead of aiming directly at them, he aims behind them, piercing large holes in the tank, leaving the Bacta to spill out. The Zygerians are in shock, knowing that their injured men won't be healed now, but Obi-Wan doesn't have any concern for this just yet, and instead will continue with his plan. Obi-Wan then leaps up onto the ceiling, hanging by tiny pipes, before cutting an electrical cable and dropping it onto the Bacta. As the wire hits the Bacta, the muscles of the Zygerians lock up as their bodies are pulsed with a large jolt of electricity. Obi-Wan managed to avoid it by holding himself in midair, and Sergeant Bolt was protected by his Phase 2 clone armor. As the Zygerians lay stunned on the ground, Obi-Wan is impressed with how quickly he was able to defeat the Zygerian thieves, but Bolt is concerned, telling Obi-Wan, "But General, their leader escaped." After hearing this, Obi-Wan tells Bolt to guard the downed thieves, while he rushes forward with his blue lightsaber ignited, hoping to track down the leader. Unfortunately, however, Obi-Wan is very soon ambushed by a flurry of fire from behind him, knocking his lightsaber from his grip and sending him to the ground with a clank. The Zygerian leader then holds his blaster at Obi-Wan's head, telling him that he's a tough Jedi to kill, but just before he can pull the trigger, a large cable comes out of nowhere and wraps around his neck, pulling him away from Obi-Wan. This allows Obi-Wan to punch out the Zygerian, knocking him coldly to the ground. As Obi-Wan looks up, he realizes that one of the clone troopers inside of the Bacta tanks just saved his life using the wire from his tank, putting the trooper's life in danger to save his general. This man is truly a hero to the Republic and deserves a medal for putting his own life at risk to save Obi-Wan's. He's literally in so much pain inside of a Bacta tank, probably injured in one of the most bloody battles of the war, and then he still puts his own life at risk to save Obi-Wan's. You've got to respect that. Obi-Wan is incredibly grateful for the trooper's sacrifice and tells him to get back in the tank as soon as possible, so that he can be back in service on the front lines as soon as possible. I really hope this brave trooper gets a transfer to the 212th so he can serve alongside Obi-Wan in the future, and I think that would make an awesome conclusion to his journey. So let me know down below, would you like this trooper to get a transfer to the 212th? Following this, Obi-Wan returns to the upper deck where the captured Zygerian thief, Murch, asks him what his punishment will be and what will happen with his injured men. Being the great man Obi-Wan is, he says that they will be sent to a prison camp, but only once he and his soldiers have been healed in the Republic Bacta tanks and are back to full health. Honestly, great move from Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan, however, does remind the Zygerian that the Separatists certainly wouldn't have afforded these mercies to the Republic if they had captured clone troopers instead. And if it was the Separatists in this situation, they would probably have tortured the clone troopers for information before brutally killing them in cold blood. There's absolutely no way they would show the mercy that Obi-Wan just showed these Zygerians, and they certainly wouldn't provide them with any of their own Bacta. So you gotta love Obi-Wan for that. And also chuck a little "Thank Mr. Kenobi" in the comments if you made it this far in the video. So those are the clone troopers who bravely risked their lives to protect the Republic's supply of Bacta, and to ensure that their brothers could return to the front line in the near future, back to full health and full strength. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.